Hey guys, and welcome to my interview series, Bold and in Business. I'm Alex Turner, this is my channel. I'm obsessed with the things that make us who we are, our habits, our rituals, the things that make us feel good about who we are, and the things that empower us to do the things that we want to do. In this interview series, I'm talking to amazing people doing really incredible, inspiring things. They're an inspiration to me, and I hope they'll be an inspiration to you too. So with each guest, we're going to dive into what they're up to, how they got started, and most importantly, their habits. What makes them tick, what makes them successful, and what enables them to go and do the amazing things that they're doing. So I hope you get a lot of value from this. I love talking to my guests. I get so much from it. I learn so much. If you like this, leave a comment, give me some suggestions for some guests. I would love that. And go ahead and hit subscribe so you can catch all the interviews. I can't wait for you to meet our guests, so let's just get started. So today my first guest is a really exciting person that I want to introduce you to, and I'm really excited that she's on the show joining us today. She is a huge advocate of women's empowerment and entrepreneurship. She is the founder of Bond Women's Festival, and she's also an expert in co-working and co-living. And if you don't know what these things are, stay tuned because it is absolutely fascinating. So I'm delighted that she's with us here today, and I cannot wait for you to meet her. Brittnee Bond, oh my goodness, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And hello from East Germany.
Can you share with us a little bit more about what you do? It's so fascinating.
Yeah, so I have always wanted to empower women. So I think what you said earlier, I'm a serial advocate for women empowerment. So I do accelerator programs. I organized a women's festival called the Bond Women's Festival this year. And I also have my own business consulting company called BondWorks, and we primarily specialize in co-working and co-living consulting because that's what I love to do. I've been doing that for like 4 years, and it's been really fun, and it's taken me so many places around the world. So I've been to over 40 countries now.
40 countries, that's insane. And so where do you consider your home base at the moment?
Oh, home base will always be Chiang Mai, Thailand. No matter how far away I travel, that's still my home.
I had a sneaky feeling that would be your answer. Why did you pick Chiang Mai in Thailand?
I don't think it was a conscious decision at first. I've been there a couple times, and then every time I kept coming back, more and more it felt like home, where I had a really great community. The weather, I love the food, I love Thai people. Like I have so many Thai friends, and now I'm learning the language, which is really hard. So I think it kind of picked me. I know that sounds really cheesy, but so now I've lived there for almost 4 years, and I love it.
And how long have you been in the co-working space? Like, talk us through how you got into that, where the interest came from.
Yeah, so I was, my background is actually in intellectual property law. So I worked for 6 years in law firms in the United States. And I was working in a law firm full time, dating a guy who was launching a co-working space. And so I kind of became like an impromptu community manager. I would like go in and like make everyone waffles and like do these events. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I loved it. And this is back in 2013 or 2014. So it was I didn't know what co-working was. I was just like, this is the thing that my boyfriend created. So from there, I started getting more involved in it. And then I helped found a co-living travel company. And so we did kind of one country around the world a month, and we would organize the house, the Wi-Fi, and excursions on the weekends for people who already had remote jobs. And so then I kind of started merging with the local co-working spaces, and wherever country we're in, we were trying to build a entrepreneurship. And for me, I especially wanted to figure out what was going on with local women entrepreneurs. So I would create meetups, events. We'd usually get in the newspaper or on the radio because people were like, what the heck are these people doing here? And this is back in like 2015 in 2016 when like digital nomads was just becoming kind of a thing and no one really knew what it was. So then it's grown from there to my consulting company started just by word of mouth. People kept recommending me to each other. And then they would say, hey, can you come to our country and take over our space for a couple months and see if you can like revamp our community and our business. and everything. And I would be like, yeah, cool, I want to come to your country. And it would be amazing because like they would host me there and I would learn all about their culture and like just get really integrated into it. And from there, it's grown. It's been amazing.
Is it the travel that appeals? Is it the entrepreneurship? Is it the community? What do you think the biggest driver is?
Initially, it's always been the travel. I've always wanted to see new cultures, experience new people, and eat all the food. But then I've always had a thing where, and I've talked to this a lot, especially with entrepreneurs, where people say you have to stay in one space and build something. If you like, and I didn't agree with that. And I've always been like, if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to immediately prove them wrong. And so I started building my business while I was traveling and just trying to be like smarter about, I'd see what someone was doing and be like, no, I'm going to do that better in my own way, not judging anyone, but I loved it. And that's led me to even what I'm working on today, which is like a whole other thing that I just created.
So tell us a little bit more about this project that you're working on at the moment, if you can.
Yeah, for sure. So we started something called Our Co-Life, my partner and I, and he's a documentary filmmaker. He's been working with National Geographic, Discovery Channel for 10 years. And now we are merging that with me knowing everything in co-living and co-working. And we're creating a documentary series called Our Co-Life, where we travel around and interview and experience what it's like to be a remote worker around the world. So right now we're going around all of Europe, experiencing 7 different co-living spaces and just meeting everyone, interviewing people along the way. So it'll be a YouTube series, everyone can follow along. But I mean, it's even, we just like made it up, we got sponsorship for it, and now it's just like this big thing that's like getting bigger and bigger as we go.
So where can we find out more about that?
You can follow us on Instagram at Our Co-Life on YouTube as well.
So we can, stay posted. Do you think it's got a broad appeal, or do you think it's a specific kind of person that does find this kind of lifestyle, this way of working? I see this as the future, but I know not everybody's like that. Do you think it's a specific characteristic?
I think that's a really good question. I think mostly everyone wants to be in this lifestyle. I don't know if people either will be willing to go through the hard work that it takes to get here, or when they get here will like actually want it. So I think it's funny, everyone wants the illusion of freedom and choice and travel, but I think at the end of the day, whether they either take it up on it or they have family or other obligations where they can do it, I think the movement is getting bigger and it's going to get more mainstream and more accepted, especially in corporate. I'm seeing that a lot. But I feel like we'll still be outliers, which I'm okay with. I like being an outlier.
For sure. I think what you're saying is really important. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. It feels a bit taboo, but you know, the idea of a digital nomad and someone that can just live and work wherever, cocktails by the beach, you know, permanently suntanned, all that kind of thing. But the reality is certainly very different. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what being a digital nomad means to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people who are technically digital nomads, which just means you can work from your laptop or remotely anywhere, and you have the choice to live wherever you want. I think we have a hard time with that term because it's been so commercialized in like, yeah, the coconut with a laptop on the beach where there's no freaking way there's Wi-Fi there and you wouldn't actually want to sit there all day and work. So the realities of it is, yes, like every month, like I've been to 7 countries and it's April. So like I travel all the time and I really enjoy that. But you know, fighting to get your routine in for your workout and your meditation in the morning is hard. Getting enough sleep is hard. Like having time to sit down and like really focus on your work. All of these things takes tons of self-discipline. I think it's completely doable. I've been doing it for almost 5 years now. I personally think it's really worth it. But I think that you have to be just kind of determine that you're going to make it work. I think that's the best way. I think if you go into it wanting it to be this like fluffy lifestyle where you just hang out, like no matter what you're doing, it's going to take work. So you have to be willing to put in the effort.
For sure. You're totally speaking my language, because I think I came into it with not enough self-discipline. And, you know, I come from a bit of a yoga background. I studied law. I, you know, had a corporate career. Even, you know, that kind of discipline, like that work ethic that I did have wasn't enough to kind of keep me super as focused as I needed to be, because it does, I think working for yourself is, it has its own challenges. It's a totally different lifestyle than having a job or, you know, a salary where you get paid at the month no matter what you're doing. So on the self-discipline front, I mean, like one of my favorite quotes, and I'm paraphrasing really loosely because I can't even remember who said it, but I think it was a Tim Ferriss interview even. He said, I could give you 100 habits that you need to be successful. Without self-discipline, the 99 other habits are useless. So your most important habit is self-discipline. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what habits are important to you, or what tools that you use, rituals, things like that, to keep you focused and to keep you going.
Yeah, I think everyone is different and what motivates them. But for me, having alone time in the morning, because I am literally 99% extrovert, so I love being around people. And like today, I have like, you know, this interview, and then I have like 5 more hours of phone calls, and then I'm filming the rest of the day. So it's just a lot. But this morning, I woke up, I did yoga with a group here at the co-living space. I went on a run, I had some meditation, and I just like was able to like ground myself. And so that makes me have energy that I can give back to everyone else. And then there's tons of tracking tools to help you with like your projects and stuff. But I'm gonna show you like the biggest tool that helps me. Just like my journal. Just
I love it.
Like having a to-do list of the things I need to get done and just keeping it by my laptop and just crossing it off every time I get something done. Because sometimes having my Asana up, or my Trello board, or whatever you use, just having it on the computer gets me super distracted, because then my email pops up, and then my Facebook pops up, and then but if I just have something analog that I can just cross off, it makes me feel really accomplished, and then I get it done by the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we must be like journaling buddies. Journaling's definitely one of my biggest hobbies, and I'm so embarrassed. I love it so much. I'm so embarrassed to even talk about it, but
Dude, I'm like the biggest nerd of journaling. Like that's the biggest weight in my suitcase. We've been traveling for 2 months now, and I have like 3 full journals that I'm just carrying around in my suitcase because I don't know what to do with them.
I know, you can't get rid of them, can you? I put mine into storage, but I was so fascinated that I went and got all of my journals for the past 2 years out and just did a little bit of a journal audit. And I wanted to see a little bit more about because you can track, you can see where you've been, where you've come from, where you're going, what you were thinking at the time. It's so interesting. Do you have any little insights into journaling then you can share? Because this is so interesting to me. I'm sure everyone will find this amazing.
I think it's really important to just get out whatever's in your head, to clear your head. And then I think, I've studied a lot of psychology and stuff like that, and I think you really can brainwash yourself in a good way. I say that in like the best way possible. So like I do like intentional gratefulness listing, and then I do like wealth abundance writing, where like I write out like what money means to me and where I want to go with it and what I can do with it. And especially for me, this year is going to be like a big year for like my money has like gone through the roof because I put a lot of time into it with journaling and like changed my whole mindset around it. So I can just tell you that I'm the biggest advocate for journaling, because I think it can basically be your own therapist. Like you don't need to go pay someone. You can just like figure your shit out and like do it yourself if you just write about it and take some time.
Gosh, that's extremely profound, because I know how much journaling changed my life, and I swear by it. But it's really cool to hear like your insight as well into that. Thank you so much for sharing.
For sure. I couldn't talk about it enough. Like I think we're the same in that, because I'm always telling everyone like you have to journal. Just sit it down, because I think so much of our life is taken up by wanting to or trying to get permission from other people. And when you journal, you give yourself permission. So like you are the authority figure, because I'll say in there like I did a really good job on this, or I'm really proud of myself for this. And so like I almost parent to myself and give myself that self-care. I don't need that permission from other people. And I think that's huge. That is like the biggest game changer for me from how I was a couple of years ago.
I've just got chills listening to this. Other than carrying around loads and loads of journals, what else might we find in your suitcase, Brittnee?
Lots. My suitcase is really small. My suitcase is broken. I need to get a new one. So I just have lots of colorful clothes in there. I have like my Indian jewelry from when we were in India. Yeah, I don't really keep that much in there. It's mostly tons of workout clothes or flowery dresses. And I'm sad I'm in Europe where like a lot of them I can't wear right now. So that's one thing I love about being in warm weather is I love like feeling pretty. I think that's really important because I do like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I do like a lot of stuff where I'm very like feels really strong, but I also have that balance of like I love feeling pretty and just being like a powerhouse woman that also likes to feel pretty. I think I can have all those things.
So the balance that you're talking about there, how do you find that balance? Like, does it even exist?
I think it's different for everyone, you know. I think as long as you are excited about what you're doing and that makes you happy, I think you'll find that balance instead of, again, listening to what you think other people want of you or what society wants of you. So I make a conscious decision to not listen to any of that, and then whatever's left over is what I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, that advice is should be like written in stone. I've got a big bee in my bonnet about what the education system teaches us about who we should be and what we should do. But I think like the lessons that we're stacking up here together, like listening to you talking about exploring yourself through journaling, like channeling that creativity and those desires, and then focusing on them, writing them down, committing to them, and then letting them manifest in life. And look at the beautiful life that you're creating for yourself. I'm just having a little meltdown here. It's just so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a really quick story of how all that manifests. Like when we were in India a month and a half ago, I was speaking at a conference and we had a big fork in the road of what we wanted to do. Like we were like, should we go back to Bali? My boyfriend's from Bali, or should we go to Europe, see friends? Should we start this project, this video project? And I just was like, why don't we just go for it? But when we got on the plane to come to Europe, I reached out to all my friends who own these co-living and co-working spaces. They all said they would host us, but we didn't have any funding for any of it. And I was like, we are going to get funding. We are going to get $10,000 or more in funding. We're going to get this. I'm not like worried about this. And my boyfriend was like, are we really going to get this? Like he was like having a hard time, you know, like holding up that energy. And I just did like all my meditation, my journaling. I like had this really good mindset of like, it's going to work out. And within a week and a half, we had over $10,000 in funding. And now I'm looking to get more. We have distribution partners where we're going to send the videos out to like their email list of like 30,000 people. It's just becoming this exploding thing, but I think you have to hold that in yourself and believe in yourself. Like write it down, do your own manifestation, feel it, and then just go after it. You know, like, it's not like you just feel it and then you sit in a dark room or something. Like I was like talking to everyone and like declaring that this was a thing, being really confident about it before we had even filmed one thing. So that's it. I think that's just an example of how it can work.
I can't wait to see this. I really can. And I think this is the key, isn't it? It's about, you know, you might have intentions, you might have desires, you might be sitting at your desk at work looking at other people doing this, but wishing for it isn't enough. Writing it down in your journal isn't even enough. It's not going to do it for you. The action is so important. It can be hard to face up to doing those tasks, and I know I've struggled with resistance for like the longest time, you know, not wanting to do those hard things. But when you start to build those practices into life and do them, this is why I love habits. You're able to take action, and then look what you can achieve. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
I love everything you're saying. Like I agree with all of it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when you get started with anything, when you go into business, when you start a new project, you can't possibly really see it all mapped out all the way to the top. You can't see to the top of the stairs, but that can't stop you from climbing, from like getting on the first step. And I see so many people, I see that it does. I see, you know, it's the biggest kind of obstacle is that we think that we have to see all the way to the end and that we know how it's going to turn out, but we don't. And we have to have faith. That's why I love daily practices to kind of keep, because the faith in yourself for me is the most important.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my own way, that just means like, yeah, just believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to be like, I got this, I'm okay. And I'm always learning. I don't know it all, you know? So I was taking one recently on like on wealth abundance and stuff like that. And then one thing they said was, you have to feel it as if it's already happened. And like for me, I had a big resistance to that because I was like, well, you don't have the like my legal side's coming up. Like you don't have the thing until it's like the checks in the bank and like, you know, it's all working out. But they were saying is that if you already feel it and you let your body experience what that feels like, you work in a way where you're not scared of getting it. which comes across as more confident, which actually makes the person want to like invest in you. Because they were saying like, imagine someone like a board investor is going to a room and you are like, oh, I don't know, my idea might work. And like, they're not going to give you their money. Like you have to be like, this is the thing that's going to cure cancer. And then they'll be like, well, we don't know if it's really going to cure cancer, but we'll give her the money and figure it out, And that was like a big mindset shift for me. And I think like, I just love like giving yourself that permission and just like sitting with it and then just being like, here we go. And then it does. That is the craziest thing for me because I'm not necessarily like, I have a resistance around like, spiritual stuff because I was raised in a very like spiritual, like religious household. So I'm always like, is that really what I believe or is that real? But this is stuff where I think it does because I think it subconsciously makes your brain think of ways for it to work out. And then you just start putting your effort into that.
We talk about it in law of attraction language where, you create this energetic match if you're thinking as if it's happened and then it creates it in reality. I personally prefer the physics. I'm not a physicist, but I have a friend who likes to coach me in physics and I'm so grateful. It's superpositioning. And it's such a brilliant name where, kind of like the frequencies, and I'm maybe totally mishearing her message here. I know. Hold my hands up. This is my interpretation of superpositioning in physics, where if you have like a high frequency or a low frequency, it gets matched and like made bigger. There's a better word in physics for that. But that's how it works, good and bad. Like if you're wishing bad things and thinking bad thoughts and focusing on problems, sure as hell you're going to get more negativity in your life. Whereas if you're looking at the positive and like acting on it, like it just compounds and I feel like it can't not happen. But people say to me, oh, nothing's guaranteed, no success is guaranteed. And I think, actually, if you work hard enough at it and you believe enough and you put the pieces into position, why wouldn't it be guaranteed? Like it's right there. Controversial.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that it's not that we don't have bad days. I think like sometimes when people get on like podcasts or whatever, they're like, this is the thing you have to do, and it's like, and I say all these things with confidence. I believe in everything I'm saying, but it doesn't mean that I'm not like human. I don't have days where I'm like, I don't know what's happening, or I just feel like down for whatever reason, I think those are also okay. I think people, if they create room to be gentle with themselves in that way, then I think that actually could make it so they don't burn out. Because I think burnout is a big thing, especially when you're traveling and trying to build your business. And I don't think people talk about it enough, especially women, because we feel like we have to already have it like perfect for us to be accepted into whatever. And I just think all of that's BS. And I like talk about it really loudly all the time because I'm just like, I'm not perfect. Most days I'm killing it, but there's tons of days where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm feeling insecure. And that's also okay, and that doesn't make me a weak person.
And I'm really grateful for you mentioning that because it's easy to get caught up in all the good and all the excitement and all the glamour of it. The realities are, good days and bad days, good moods and bad moods, good outlooks and bad outlooks. So when, say, something like that happens, maybe there's a trigger, maybe there's not. Like, do you have ways that you have to, like you say, like make room for that in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely situations where I have to push through, just that's business. Like say I'm in a business meeting, I don't like the way it's going, but I have to like put on my face and just do it. If there is another opportunity to just take a step back, I always do that. And Brittnee Bond talks about this a lot in her Daring Greatly book, where she'll be in business meetings and she'll just be like, I need a break right now, guys. Like, I just can't handle this. And that's okay. I think that's like a really good sign of leadership when you can just be like, I'm not perfect and I'm going to go like check myself so that this doesn't reflect on everyone else. And I say that, I think that's also an interesting thing to work with your partner too, because like my boyfriend and I have our business together, and that is one of the hardest things, like working together, traveling together, living together. It all like stacks on each other, and we have to really say like, am I responding to this like on a personal level, on a business level? And then sometimes we just have to take a step back, and I'll just go for a walk, or I'll like be alone and do my journaling. And if I can have just like 10 minutes alone where I can think about it and feel my feelings, then I usually can work through them and come back to like balance in the middle and react the way I should. Or not should, but like react the way I would be proud of. Because, sometimes we all get emotional and we're like, oh, you know, we just respond, but that's not really how we are proud of ourselves later on. We're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, you know. So if I can give myself that time, then yeah, everything works out.
And is that in addition to, say, like your morning like routine time where you take that time for meditation or exercise? Is that like through the day, like it might pop up and you take a time out there?
For sure, yeah. So this is like everything considered. I always already try and do my morning routine, and then throughout the day, you know, an email could come in that was like really exciting, and like in a good way, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like pumped, and then on the opposite way, something could come in where I'm like, oh, that's so frustrating. Why are we going through this again? Or, you know, whatever. And then I have to like kind of rebalance myself. So I think that's a constant rebalancing. But if you're aware of it, then it doesn't have to throw your whole day off. I think that's the difference. Is like, I think if you give other people like your energy and permission to just run away with, then yeah, you're going to be just completely reacting to whatever is happening to you that day. But if you're like, I'm going to take this back. This is my power of how I feel about myself and how I look at the world. And the one thing I always tell myself is, even if someone's upsetting me, I get to decide how I respond to them. So I can decide that I want to respond in a positive way back to them. And that is like what's leading. I'm not saying it works all the time. I'm just saying this is what I'm trying to do. It works most of the time. Sometimes
9 times out of 10.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of times Tim and I will look at each other and we'll just know how each other is feeling about something. And I think that just saves so much time in a relationship where in the past I've had to like, this is how I feel and this responds to this thing. And it's like, it takes so much work just to explain my feelings and I'm exhausted by the end of it. So being with someone who already gets it and we can just go on to the next thing of like how that feeling makes us react or whatever, it makes everything a lot easier.
There's a tendency to see the world through our own eyes and think that everybody else is going through it the same, and there's so many different manifestations, like how many ways a person can be. We're all unique, and so to be able to even recognize that someone's coming from a different perspective, maybe having that awareness is going to help in work, in relationships, in friendships, with family. Espen and I, we travel, we work together, we're in close proximity. I hear what you're saying. It's intense.
Yeah. We had a mentor of mine give us some really good advice, and he's like, if you guys are fighting, just each sit down without talking to each other and write out from like a bird's eye point of view what you think is happening in the situation. So like Brittnee is doing this, John is doing this, and then sit down and compare your stories, because a lot of times they're very different, and then usually you can find some balance in the middle, and it definitely helps, because it's like, wait, what? You think that? And then when I'm writing it out, I start realizing that I'm probably overreacting to a couple things. And I'm like, okay, I need to be nicer. Like a lot of times I'm the one that's like, because like I've been in like really abusive relationships in the past. And so I think I overreact sometimes when he's just like, he's not doing anything maliciously. He's just being like maybe not as thoughtful as I would like him to be. And so that's like something where my journaling really helps me out, where I'm like checking myself, where I'm like, oh, he didn't really mean it like that. Okay, I need to like calm down or something, you know, just interesting.
When we're kids and we get told, just take a deep breath and count to 10. Like at what point in adulthood did we stop doing that? Did we just let ourselves react? Because when you take that break, magic can happen. So whether it's breath, whether it's journaling, whether it's yoga, like whatever you're doing, I think having that, like Brittnee Brown says too, and you mentioned that, like take that break.
Yeah, so true. And I think that's why I would say I think it's different for everyone. Like figure out whatever resonates with you, and don't let anyone take that away from you or tell you it needs to be different, because my boyfriend does different things in the morning, and that really worked for him. And it doesn't matter what it is, at the end of the day, if it gets you to your happy, balanced state, just keep doing it. Like,
yeah. Gosh, so many nuggets in here, so many nuggets. So I just kind of working towards closing up, but just a couple more questions for you. I wanted to hear from you on what freedom means to you.
I have a hard time with that word, because I think that, I don't know, as an American, freedom is like nationalized. They use it a lot in like trying to rally the troops and politically. But I think freedom for me just means being able to have complete control over how I look at life. So, you know, I decide every day whether I'm happy or, sad or whatever I want to be. And then in the future, I get to decide where I want to go. So I think a lot of people in like our digital nomad life or traveling or whatever, freedom for them means like, I get to do whatever I want, but like at the end of the day, you still have to pay your bills and you still have to like do all the responsible things. So for me, it's like being able to do all of those things, like being an adult and make really good money, but also deciding how I do all of those things and deciding who I want to be and not letting anyone dictate that.
That's beautiful. Do you have like a person who inspires you, a mentor, even a book that you swear by, like your kind of your guidebook for life?
That's hard. I read all the time, so I'm always like the newest thing I'm reading, but one that I've really always recommend, especially to men, because I think men are not given in our society, they're not given permission a lot of times to feel their feelings. So I always recommend to my partners and stuff like that is Brittnee Bond's Daring Greatly, because I think it's like foundational things of like how to speak up about your emotions, how to set boundaries in a loving way, because I think so much of our society is like, especially for women, it's like be pretty, be quiet, make everyone happy. And I don't agree with that, but how do you do it in a way that resonates with you and makes you feel happy and respected? Because I think if you do speak up, people label you as a bitch, and I don't agree with that either. So it's like, where's the balance in the middle? And I think she does it in a really powerful way because it's so simple and it's so like, you just literally just declare how you feel and you stand in your own like power with that. And it blows my mind how simple it is when people don't do it. I think they don't know. We're not raised with that. We're not raised with like emotional intelligence classes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's going to resonate a lot with a lot of people. On the theme of empowerment, because it's a huge topic and we've barely even like scratched the surface of it. But to step, like, what is empowerment for you? What are good first steps for that empowerment? I see it as a process rather than as a thing, I suppose, which is maybe my perspective. But how do you see it?
Empowerment for me, I guess it's also like different on who you are, right? So like if I was a different race or if I was from a different background, that would mean something different. So as a white Caucasian from California as a woman, empowerment for me is feeling like I can do anything I want, and nothing can hold me back from doing that. And if I don't know how to do something, I can learn how to do it. But what I'm realizing is, like, especially when I talk to women, this is why women empowerment stuff is so important to me, is like so many of us women, like, we're just not given those abilities, like my dad was an entrepreneur. I grew up in like an area where a lot of people were starting businesses. So I just like saw that from the outside that was like a normal thing. And I was always just like, yeah, this is what people do. And then I went around meeting women, they don't do that. And then I was like, well, why don't you do that? And they were like, well, we don't feel like we can qualify for it. Or, we were raised to not go after this stuff, and just cultural things, environmental things. And I'm like, I don't agree with any of this. And I want to like help you. And like, so for me, empowerment is doing whatever makes you feel good and feeling like you have permission to do it and going after it. So maybe that's not starting your own business, but if that means, doing whatever it is that you've always wanted to do and just being confident in that, cool. I'm excited and I want to help you get there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and it's so important. It's so important because there's people who they don't have hobbies. They didn't let themselves do that. They have all these unrealized dreams, or travel's a huge one for people. They wait till retirement to start traveling. Like, if this is in your blood, if this is in your heart, now the first thing that you can do is just get started on that journey. Because to me, doing all of these things that you're talking about feels bold. It feels edgy because it's not what we were taught for as kids. Not as a girl, anyway. For me, and growing up in Scotland, quite a keep ourselves to ourselves. Loads and loads of adventures. I'm probably doing Scotland a massive injustice, but to actually break the mold and step out and do something that is a bit different, whether it's go and live in Chiang Mai or whether it's start my own business, or, you know, I think some people find that these Zoom calls with people in different parts of the world, mind blowing. So even learning a little bit of tech for me, like having my own website and doing things like that, that felt bold. And so empowerment feels bold and it feels a bit scary, but I think it's necessary. I think it's important. So I wondered, that was my kind of final question for you to wrap up, is what does bold mean to you?
Bold to me is doing something that scares me and like going 100 miles an hour at it. Oh my God, that's the thing that scares me, putting myself out there, launching a whole YouTube series and getting sponsorship and being like, are people going to watch this? I don't know. I'm just going to go for it and act like it's a thing. So whatever that is for you, like if I feel like it's scary to me and it's pushing me, then I know I need to do it. That's bold.
Yeah, I think if you're listening, for those people that are maybe getting those feelings too and feeling like the stirrings of whatever it is, whether it's desire or a dream or things like that, that's my biggest advice, is to pay attention to that. That's something to journal on for sure, because it's an adventure and it's a scary one, but it's a freaking fantastic one.
Oh my God, yes. And like the second you take action on it, you're immediately learning, and you'll have that moment where you look back and be like, I'm so glad I did that. Like that, I have that every single day where I'm just like, how did we get here? Like we say every day, we're literally living inside our manifestation. Like 2 days ago, we were in the Swiss Alps, like on top of a mountain. I think that's the thing, is like figure out what scares you and then just go for it. And then think about it later. Like don't let yourself think yourself out of doing anything about it, because it will always work in whatever way it needs to.
There's obstacles, there's always going to be obstacles, there's going to be hard things, but I think whether we make the excuses or whether we take the action is kind of what defines the direction that our life goes in. And whether you can sit back and say, I'm really pleased with what's going on, or yeah, it's scary and we're not there yet, but we're going to keep going because I'm just so glad I'm doing this and not whatever that is.
Yeah, for sure.
Just mention your Instagram and your project one more time so that people can find you.
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube or Instagram, and it's at Our Co-Life. So
Our Co-Life.
Check us out, give us a like, whatever you want to do, but I hope it helps.
Yeah, I know it's fun. For me, following you, I love it. And you're such an incredible inspiration. So I really hope that, I'm sure that our listeners will get a lot from this interview. So thanks so much, Brittnee, for your time, and
thanks
talk to you soon.
Hey guys, so what did you think of that interview with Brittnee? Isn't she just the most inspiring and motivated person you ever did meet? I loved talking to her in that interview there, and I loved everything that she shared, particularly about finding balance, especially when you're on the road. You know, when life's unpredictable or chaotic and you don't know what's around the next corner, having these rituals and having these practices to keep you balanced, and especially what she was sharing about, you know, the balance between being a strong powerhouse woman and her feminine side as well. I think there's a lot in that, and I think as women, as people, we need to find that balance in ourselves between maybe the strong forces and then the softer forces. I also loved what she shared about journaling techniques. I love that she and I are both totally into journaling, and she shared some really interesting snippets there on wealth consciousness journaling. So if you missed that, go back and take another look, because it's so important, especially if finances is something that's on your radar. She also mentioned a book that I completely back up this recommendation, Brené Brown's Daring Greatly. Such an incredible book on vulnerability, on how to stand up for yourself, but also maintain boundaries and learn how to have boundaries, learn how to implement boundaries. Such a great recommendation. I loved how Brittnee shared that empowerment and being bold for her is about knowing what she wants and going after it, even in the face of fear, like how to take action even if you're feeling the fear. I think fear is something that holds us back, and the way Brittnee talks about embracing that fear, owning that fear, and just taking action anyway is so powerful. Such a powerful message to share. I really did love everything about that interview with Brittnee. I hope you did too. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your top takeaways are. If you liked it, go ahead and like it and even subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.